laughter, dangerous, laughter, dangerous, laughter, dangerous, laughter.
Danger. The emergency disrupt system is now activated. The option to override detonation procedure has now expired. The ship will automatically destruct in T-minus 1 minute. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And welcome back on the DL. We are on the DL today, ladies and gentlemen. I am AJ Rice. This is Dangerous Laughter. I'm getting messages from all of you out there as we are, releasing shows and doing shows, and you guys are loving the guests. You guys are loving the fun. You're loving the Dangerous Laughter. Just remember, our job here is to transform horror into humor. And for those of you out there that are, a little pissed off, you might not like my sort of wise ass Philadelphia attitude. You could definitely blame Ben Franklin for that. Also, I take no responsibility for anything crazy I say on this show. Everything I say on this show was taught to me by Laura Ingraham and Monica Crowley. So if you got any beef with what I'm saying on this show, you gotta take it up with Laura and Monica, my two big sisters. They are very busy right now, though. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have an amazing guest. I've known this gentleman a long time. He's a dangerous guest. He's a dangerous guest. It was actually People Magazine's sexiest man alive in 2012. A lot of people don't know that, right? He's also the social media director of Breitbart Media. He's never had an AI girlfriend, right? And his wife is 100% human. Believe me, I know her. 100%. He's a distinguished fellow at the Government Accountability Institute. New York Times bestselling author of Code Red, The Left, the Right, China, and the Race to Control AI. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the unrivaled Wynton Hall, everybody. Wynton Hall's in the house. That's right. There he is. We're inside the race, Wynton. Great to be here.
Oh, thanks for having me, AJ. Man, and I got to say, whoever does your introduction, your graphics, I feel like I was watching a Scorsese movie or something.
You were just talking to her. That's Holly. She is a Jedi Master.
Amazing.
And I think after we do today's topic, though, I think the digital brown shirts may come looking for her later this afternoon. So we've got this great book. It's a New York Times bestseller. Code Red. I've got it right here. It's amazing, right? It looks great. And, it's funny, Wynton. I hear all this talk all the time about the race. And I've been in some races. Hot dog eating contest, tequila shot contest, three-legged race on field day in 1986, whatever it is, right? There's a race. And then we've had other races politically. We've had moon races and other things. So I guess the question is, if we're racing someone, and it sounds like, based on all the propaganda I hear, that we're racing the CCP, and I know you're going to answer this, and I've read the book. What do we win? When we win the race, what do we get? Do we get extinction? Do we get to be the last slaves instead of the first? What exactly if we win the AI race, what do we win with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And all those races that you were in, that you were mentioning about your tequila race, far more important and existential than what we're facing with AI. No question about it.
Exactly.
No, it's a very important question. And, when we call it a race, that metaphor may be a little bit problematic because there's an end to most races. There is not an end to this race. And that's one of the reasons why you're right to point out that it's unclear what the trophy looks like. What we know in the medium term of that race is that there are two main victories for the United States in this race with China. First is economic, right? Because we know that 40%, I want everybody to really think about this, 40% of the S&P 500 is constituted around the Mag 7, our 7 biggest tech firms, which are all obviously deeply embedded and invested in AI. And so it's really that tent pole, right? It's tent pole economically. The other thing is that China knows that it's an economic force, and that's why we saw the single largest one-day market cap wipeout in American history. Really let that sink in. When America's NVIDIA was rocked, when DeepSeek, the R1 model from China, was released, we all remember this, and it cratered our markets. It certainly cratered NVIDIA in a $600 billion, with a B, almost 2/3 of $1 trillion one-day market cap loss. So we've got this tug of war in this race between us and China on the economics. And so your question, what do we win? Well, we win economic prosperity in viability in that medium term. But I think the biggest thing is the existential, and of course, nothing that we care about more than our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, our special forces. We're all obviously very focused on the national security component. And let's talk about that. What do we win there? The problem with the AI race as it relates to national security, AJ, is that whoever hits this theoretical component called RSI, recursive self-improvement, it's a fancy way of saying that the code can update and improve itself autonomously. If and when that happens, you're going to get on an exponential curve, and whoever gets there first is going to outpace and no one can catch up. That means you're talking about vulnerabilities of hacking our infrastructure, hacking missile systems, cybersecurity threats in banking, hospitals, all of it. So when you're talking about what do you win security in economics as well as those security threat vectors we're talking about. But you're right, this is not like a regular race. We don't get to cross a finish line. We're going to be doing this in perpetuity.
Sure. Yeah, it's amazing too that we have made some of these apps, and we use them. Everyone's using them. People, and like as you write, people are using. They don't even realize they're using them. It's baked into all the tech we're using. And you hear people talking about them. Well, I'm friends with Grok, and I went on a date with ChatGPT, and Claude took me out to dinner yesterday. They talk about them as if they're alive, and that they're very specific entities with names. Mm-hmm. And when I hear people sort of describe how they use them and when they use them, and we talk about in the context of this race, everything you just said to me was humans racing other humans using AI as a tool, like it's a hammer or a shovel or chainsaw or weed whacker or whatever the hell it is. The problem that I guess we're all going to have, and it's a problem that's been laid out before us, for 100 years of what used to be considered science fiction literature, is that what happens when Claude starts racing Grok and ChatGPT starts racing, one of these other ones. I don't know them all, the names of them, Perplexity and all the rest of them. It appears Claude, most of the really negative stuff that I've come across, it's coming out of Claude, which was created by Anthropic, I guess, right?
That's correct.
They were the holdout with integrating into the Pentagon and all the rest of it. But let me just ask you that. I mean, are we reaching a point here where we're not really in control of this race? That these things are racing autonomously? I mean, you just use that term. They're racing each other. And I mean, look, man, you and I are relatively the same age. I mean, we were aware of the 80s. We know who John Connor is. We know who these people are, right? And the question starts to become is like we're basically tiptoeing through the tulips to Armageddon, as far as I'm concerned. And we have it's like somebody gave us the blueprint, whether it's Jim Cameron or whoever the hell it is, Isaac Asimov, they gave it to us. and we're all just sort of doing exactly what the hell is in the literature, what has been in popular mechanics, theoretical physics for years, and what has been on film.
Yeah, no, we have lived with this narrative for decades. You're exactly right. Hollywood has taught us that these, titanium robots with glowing laser beam eyes can vaporize us and the rest. And those things are going to be real serious when you're talking about humanoid robots. That's a little farther into the future. Elon predicts by 2040, you're looking at mass scale of humanoid robots. But what's even, I think, more concerning in the short term is the fact that you don't need the sort of Hollywood version to really get to these very serious threat vectors. Let's talk about a couple of them. I mean, one of the things I tried to do in Code Red was to really give people a full immersion into what I call the roses of AI. They're positives. You've already talked about, you use AI, your show uses AI. Everybody uses AI. 99% of us use AI. 64% of people aren't sure when they're using AI. And the reason is because of what you said, AJ. It's baked into the algorithms of our weather app or our GPS or a host of any of the other modern things that we use. But the reality is that there's also landmines that we have to be very worried about. And so you were bringing up autonomous and in the context of warfare. So let's take a look at that. Well, number one, we know that we used AI in the Maduro raid in Venezuela. We know that in Iran, we have used absolutely at scale AI. And what does that look like? Well, it's not the Hollywood Terminator version yet. No. Okay. What it really is it's far less cinematic, but no less lethal. And let's talk about how it looks. One of the big things that AI is uniquely adept at is mass pattern recognition, right? Your brain and my brain can only ingest so many, nodes of information. For a LLM, a large language model, it can ingest billions and billions of data points, data sift those in seconds, and find connecting points. Now, that can be very useful for our intel community, and it has been. What does it look like? When you're in, let's take the Iran example, right? You're looking at all these data sets. You've got data sets of aerial footage. You've got terror network facial recognition. We know what certain terror leaders look like. You're looking at on-the-ground reconnaissance imagery of location. And you want to put that in a big blender, sift it out, and figure out what is connected to what so that you can have better accuracy of targeting, better elimination of terror threats and terrorist outposts and weapon systems. And that's essentially what it's allowed you to do. On the other hand, you really want to make sure that you're accurate. Otherwise, you're targeting, an innocent civilian or, God forbid, our own troops erroneously. So we've got to have human override, and we have to have human intervention, not just in the loop, but in command. And I think that's going to be the real challenge of autonomous warfare.
Sure. Absolutely. And look, guys, we're talking to Wynton Hall. The book is Code Red: The Left, the Right, China, and the Race to Control AI. Fantastic book. Chris, give me that Sam Altman blurb quote that is at the beginning of this book real quick. Wynton put this before the book begins. I put in my book, I put lines from Kindergarten Cop, but Wynton is much more...
yours is far better. More exciting.
Well, this is way scarier. I'll tell you this. After thousands of years of compounding scientific discovery and technological progress, we have figured out how to melt sand, add some impurities, arrange it with astonishing precision at extraordinarily tiny scale into computer chips, run energy through it, and end up with systems capable of creating increasingly capable artificial intelligence. This may turn out to be the most consequential fact of all history so far. Now, let's say I agree with him. If you've seen the movie Oppenheimer and you understand what they knew and what they didn't know about what was going to happen, the difference between fission and fusion with an atomic bomb. There were people that thought that when you set it off, it could destroy the world. Other people thought it would be contained. There's a similar debate, I think, going on now. We have rules that sort of govern who can use nuclear weapons, non-proliferation treaties, and all the rest of it. This one's a signee, and this one's not. This one secretly has them, and we know they do. And I'm not here to litigate that. But the atomic weapon used twice in battle by the United States on Japan. And what you're telling me is every day, and this is, death by 1,000 cuts or death by one big gigantic atomic weapon on Hiroshima. Every day this is being used. And you have to say to yourself, if this is what Altman says it is, it's like Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park that genetics are the most powerful thing the world has ever seen. Well, AI might be. Mm-hmm. And the question is, every unqualified, and I don't know how you qualify them, but every goofball in the world, some person in a mud hut in the middle of Uganda could be on ChatGPT right now. So the question is, we've got all these people out there, and they're all walking around with these devices, and they're all talking to these things like they're alive, and they're talking to them. They're talking to little tiny mini Hiroshimas. It's in their hand. It's in their pocket. It's in their car. It's controlling their Nest thermostat. It's controlling their Ring doorbell and all the hell the rest of it. So, look, ancient Greece, Pandora. Pandora's dead. The horse has left the barn. Pandora's dead on its back. This is uncontainable, right, at this point?
Yeah, no, you've got your finger on it here, AJ. So in Code Red, I have a chapter on containment and threat vectors, and we really need to unpack it. The democratizing influence of AI on intelligence, we often talk about the positives, those roses that I was talking about, that now people have access to learn more. Our children could learn about, every concept in science that they've ever been intellectually curious about. We would have access for low cost for AI tutors so that people who can't afford a tutor will have access. On the other hand, the landmine. The landmine here, of course, is that non-state actors, otherwise known as terrorists, are able to have PhD level intelligence in things like chemicals, chemical warfare, biological warfare,
right.
Infrastructure attacks. And we're seeing real problems with this. This is why just yesterday, the President of the United States released his executive order as it relates to cybersecurity, because Mythos, which was the Anthropic model, was so powerful that it was not released to the public once they realized that it was exposing cybersecurity threats that humans had missed for 27 years. So we have to think about this. Now, to your point, right now, ChatGPT, let's just take them, because there's obviously all kind of AI, but let's just take, because that's one that people understand, has 1 billion with a B monthly users. Okay. There are 8 billion roughly people on planet Earth. So we're just getting started. And I think the most important thing for people to understand is AI is not just a tool. We hear that all the time. AI, it's just a tool like any other tool, right? It is a tool, but it's not just a tool. It's also political and human power. It's the power to either indoctrinate our kids or to educate them. It's the power to erase jobs or create them. And as we're talking about, it's going to be the power to decide who comes home and doesn't on a battlefield. But what you're seeing right now is that terror groups can take low-cost drones, equip them with facial recognition AI very cheaply, and now I can zoom through and create a slaughter bot or literally a death bot that can either aerosol spray or actually with a weapon take out targets for pennies on the dollar. And so this is going to upend, and already is, those threat vectors you're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're talking to Wynton Hall. We're going to take a quick break here. His book is Code Red. We're going to make sure there's no murder bots coming after us here on the other side of this break. This is Dangerous Laughter. I am AJ Rice. We will be right back.
In today's breaking news, The Curse of the Bearded Lady by AJ Rice has already hit #1 on Amazon new releases, and it is only on pre-sale.
You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. Someone once said comedy is the art of turning horror into humor. That's the essence of The Curse of the Bearded Lady, laughing in the face of madness before it devours us whole. The Curse of the Bearded Lady!
enjoy another elegant celebrity endorsement of Dangerous Laughter with AJ Rice.
AJ Rice, no one wants to hear your voice just like high school. You'll get kicked out of the Preston AV Club like a total freaking loser. And then you tried to be a DJ, but never played Jamiroquai. Your podcast was called Dangerous Laughter? Only a host with no girlfriends would have a garbage show called that. Girls don't want boyfriends who have great skills. You have less than 0 skills. You have minus skills. That's why President Pedro stole your fat, tubby girlfriend. Do you practice your show talking in the mirror like Batman with a high cholesterol? Like, good luck with the Dangerous Laughter. The podcast is so stupid, not even Uncle Rico will listen to it. Idiots.
This endorsement has been brought to you by collapsing standards everywhere. And now, back to Dangerous Laughter.
The management of this station are clueless. You're listening to Dangerous Laughter with AJ Rice on the Publius Media Network.
We are back. I am AJ Rice. This is Dangerous Laughter. Remember, comedy is our civic duty, and our job here is to transform horror into humor. We're here to make, public people, powerful people sweat a little bit. Today, we're making the robots sweat. We're making the synths and the androids and the RoboCops sweat a little bit. We're here with Wynton Hall. New book, Code Red. And look, I've known Wynton since January of 2012. I was reminded recently, and I don't know what Wynton thought when he came across AJ Rice back then. He probably was like, this guy's out on work release. They let him out. I think I saw him mopping the floor at O'Shaughnessy's pub last night, something like that. But we hit it off. We had some fun. And, Wynton, who in 2012, like I told you at the beginning, was the People Magazine Sexiest Man Alive. I've reached into the archives, and I have something here. I have something here that I want to put on the screen. Okay, look, wait a minute here. Wait, hold on. So Wynton and I were in a wedding together. We were groomsmen. I don't know why I'm all the way out there on the left, because I'm only 3 foot tall. So, but apparently the people in this wedding were so short. They were from Middle Earth. I think, that I was the 4th tallest person. But as you can see, Stud Muffin over there on the right, and your humble correspondent over there, we're all wearing purple socks. Wynton, what do you think of this photo?
Oh, I very much remember, and it's etched in my memory forever, meeting you for the first time. And I had and it's still with me to this day. This is a guy that has more charisma and swag and swagger and gift of gab than anybody I've ever encountered. It was unbelievable. And I watched you work the room and talk to guys and gals, and everybody you were regaling everybody. It was the ultimate rack on tour performance. And I've always been amazed by it. And I'm so glad you do what you do, and your success, your rightfully deserved success in your businesses, because nobody is as savvy with the gift of gab and messaging as AJ Rice. And I mean that, but I very much remember it. And I was glad that at the time that she was now my wife, but that we were able to meet her, Michelle, and we very much enjoyed it. And it's been a great friendship ever since.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Give me the other one. There it is. Hey, this is us going at this is look at me. We look like Secret Service agents there. We look like Agent Smith from The Matrix there, out there by the ocean. That's a pretty good one.
It's an amazing photo. Yeah, that was a great time together. So much
Wynton
fun.
hasn't aged a day. I've been aging backwards like Benjamin Button, and I appreciate the kind words. I am a master of the dark arts of bloviation. Someone's got to be. But no, Wynton and I we met. We were groomsmen together. He had his now wife with him. It took me a couple more shots to find the right one for me, but I eventually landed on someone that definitely chin checks me and keeps me in charge. My current wife. I've had 14 wives since that picture. So
well, we know she has to be Wonder Woman to be able to manage you and keep you in check. So
that's right. And she is real. She is not an AI model. So we're talking to Wynton Hall, New York Times bestseller. And the great thing about Wynton, which is kind of like me, is that Wynton has been for a long time a behind the scenes, shaman for a lot of people. Never forget that all those Jay-Z albums that were huge smash successes, they were all produced by Kanye West before he lost his mind. Okay? Behind the scene guys. Bob Hope worked in the mailroom, right? Mm-hmm. So Wynton has been a behind the scenes guy. He has shepherded many books on the New York Times bestseller list. And the funny thing about Wynton and I is we are sort of bookends of a process, whereas Wynton has helped people with their writing that has made it on the New York Times bestseller list. And I have promoted with Publius PR. I think Wynton, your book was the 73rd. Full disclosure, we helped promote this, ladies and gentlemen. 73rd New York Times bestseller that we have done in 10 years. So
congratulations. I know how hard that is. I was showing up, my literary agent showed me a statistic recently. In 2025, there were 4.5 million books on planet Earth that were published. And that means that 0.002% hit the New York Times list. So for you guys to have a trophy case that big, just underscores what I was saying about your incredible savvy with public relations and communication.
I appreciate that, really. So let me ask you this question. The tech bros, all right? Trump's got a lot of these tech bros around him now. They were at the inauguration. Mm-hmm. Zuckerberg was looking at Sanchez's cleavage. They're at the White House. They're coming. They're asking for help with lawsuits in Europe. Some of them are buying property around D.C. They're walking through Stargates together, right, hand in hand. Kurt Russell's not there for this one. We are led to believe, and you write about this, that, the tech bros are on our side now. Not that their digital weather vanes are just pointing in the direction of how can I get power, but that, Elon is a bit of an oddity in a lot of ways, but, he at least to some degree doesn't like wokeness and, kind of did a little bit of a digital jailbreak when he reinstated everyone's Twitter handles after he bought it. But it seems to me that there is a push to say, well, we flipped Silicon Valley. They're on our team now. Is there any truth to that?
No, I think there has, for the time being, and I want to stress for the time being, been a shift. This is such an important point, though, and it's something I do, you're right, talk about in Code Red, which is that there are going to be massive pendulum swings in how AI policy affects our lives based on who is in office. Because, again, it is power. It is not just a tool. And so here's what's going on. At the inauguration, you had all of these tech oligarchs line up to kiss the proverbial ring of Donald Trump after having spent years and years pouring millions and millions of dollars into bashing his political team and bashing him in politics. And the reason for that is this. If you really want to accelerate in the AI race, whether you're talking about data centers, whatever you're talking about, you have to have massive regulatory approvals from the federal government. You don't just go build a massive 20 football field data center in a cornfield without having huge approvals from national security, energy department, commerce. You just go down the list, right? And interior department. So you have to play this game, and they understand that they cannot be in an adversarial posture with the man whose administration holds the key to their acceleration in AI. So for now, they're all being good little boys and girls, right? They're trying to bite their tongue when they don't want to lash out. But let us not forget, these are the same people who were part of the scan and ban technology under the Biden regime that shackled and muzzled right of center voices. These are the people that were working with the Global Disinformation Index to be able to ban and scan using AI to scan and ban hate speech or misinformation, otherwise known as anything right of center they don't like. And so we should not be fooled that this is some kind of, they've found their ideological epiphany and now they are, rock hard William F. Buckley conservatives or something like this.
Right.
They're far from it.
Sure. I mean, look, they need their bread buttered. He's the person in charge of the butter right now. Some of them you can kind of feel more authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it has to do with Israel. Some of it has to, in the sense that they might be ethnically Jewish and they're horrified by the left's behavior on college campuses and all the rest of it, the Democrat Party's behavior. So some of them are horrified by that. Some are horrified by things like you see in Los Angeles, people backing Spencer Pratt because they've just had enough. There isn't apparently a threshold for drinking buckets of, diarrhea every day from the Democrat Party. And, some of them it's wokeism. Trump was able to get, Tulsi Gabbard, people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. and Joe Rogan and Musk and people like Naomi Wolf and others to reassess their allegiances with the Democrat Party. Got some libertarians that come that way too. If you watch Zuckerberg though, like on Rogan, you can kind of tell like he definitely is just sort of, trying to figure out where, can you help me, not get sued by the European Union and all the rest of it? We can't, I don't think, most of these guys are chameleons. Some of them come off as a little more authentic, but a lot of them are driven by utopianism themselves. Yeah, which is really no different than far left ideologies. Am I right?
Yeah, you are, and the money tells the story. I mean, it's math, not poetry. 85% of all political donations in Silicon Valley flow to the Democrats, right? You're talking about, in the case of Anthropic and their investor orbit, if you include all those surrounding, $200 million given to Democrats, virtually nothing to Republicans. They are very, very strong ideologues, many of these leaders. Many of them have been working for years thinking about how to politically weaponize AI to have a global economic reset, a resetting of the national security apparatus, all of it. And so, yes, there are some very courageous right of center, free market thinking, libertarian types and so forth within Silicon Valley. And that's important. And we want to recognize that. But we would be foolish if we think that all of a sudden these folks have decided that they read their Hayek and von Mises and they're now rock rib conservatives or free market people. They're not.
Yeah, they're all Barry Goldwater now. It's funny with all the cancellation and cancel culture that's going on, and Dangerous Laughter is sort of an outgrowth of the ability to transform horror into humor and to be able to make fun of things. Political correctness and cancel culture isn't new. It goes all the way back to ancient Greece with Aristophanes. The most banned book of all time is called, you might have heard of it, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, right? So whether it's Twain or Lenny Bruce or Shane Gillis, what we try to do here is is to push back on the banning. Now, with all the different clients I've had, and all my mouth flapping, 3 books behind me, I've only ever been banned by LinkedIn, and I am still banned by LinkedIn. That's the one that got me. They got me, and they didn't get me because of anything I said or because of, the 3 books that they only sell in the gulag behind me. They got me because of just my team sharing interviews during COVID of some of my clients. I've represented, pretty much every anti-COVID vaccine doctor and, people that don't believe in man-made global warming and all the rest of it. They sent a few warnings and then they shut me down and they will not respond. So maybe I gotta get maybe Breitbart to kick their ass a little bit. But look, one thing, I just want to touch on before we go to another break here. Do you remember when Hillary Clinton, I think she was talking to some coal miners in West Virginia. And she basically inferred to them in the presidential election in 2015 that they needed to learn to code. Learn to code. So this is some guy that was a coal miner or a blue-collar guy that he should learn to code. Now, let's say that coal miner actually did go out and learn to code. Now, we've been told these blue-collar jobs are gone, but you have been studying, and I saw some of the stories you were sharing earlier, that let's say that gentleman went out and did learn to code, and now he's a coder. And then Code Red shows up, AI shows up. Is that coal miner who Hillary told to learn to code, who now codes, is he about to lose his white-collar job?
Yeah, so this is a really important point you're bringing up, AJ. So you're right. For years, we heard the blue-collar jobs were all the ones that automation was going to threaten. It's actually the reverse. It's the white-collar knowledge workers. And the irony, as you're pointing out, is that right now with these data center build-outs, that guy that was doing the manual labor, whether it's dry wall hanging or plumbing or HVAC or electrician, in some cases, they're seeing a 30% pay premium increase, not decrease, as well. Now, in the coding space, it's very interesting. There is a big shift and there's a big debate whether this is going to make them even more productive or not. But you are absolutely right that, when you look at things like Claude Code and other codecs, that is doing 90% of the coding. Now, the question is, can they then take that free time and make even bigger deals with it? We'll have to wait and see. But the white collar replacement is really important for parents and grandparents. I'm getting asked, I've been giving all these speeches and book signings, and I just was up in Wisconsin and Illinois and had all these hundreds of people. And one of the biggest things everybody says is, what do I tell my kid? This stuff is moving so fast. How do I future-proof them? And I say three things. One, Jensen Huang likes to say you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. We can't be head in the sand. You're using AI. Sure. We have to adapt to that. Number two is we cannot, though, allow our kids' critical thinking skills to erode and plagiarism to increase because they're just constantly relying like a crutch on the AI. And the third thing, and this is the real secret weapon, the future is teaching kids not how to apply for jobs, but how to create their own job through entrepreneurship. You're an entrepreneur. You created your business. Nobody handed you, daddy's money or something. You started ground up. You built. I did the same with mine. You had to learn how do you file an LLC? How do you set up a payroll? How do you build a website? How do you do marketing? You had to learn it. I had to learn it. That toolkit is the best moat, future protection to bulletproof our kids, and then you superpower that with the AI. So we're going to have to learn very quickly, and I give all the points of how and what we need to be doing with our kids and grandkids in Code Red. Absolutely,
and we do. And we've seen some of these inaugurations, college graduations, where the students, there's an AI goofball brought in to address the students, and they're getting booed. They're getting booed from coast to coast. I'm a geriatric millennial. So I was 25 years old, already set in my old man Clint Eastwood Gran Torino ways, when on, I guess it was February 14th, 2005, YouTube was invented. All right, so that was it. So I already was filled with Kevin Smith movies and the Wu-Tang Clan. I knew how to use a pager. I knew what a laser disc was. I had a Sony Walkman. So I am using it, and it's making me more productive and faster. And I'm asking crazy things like, I need a few midget jokes. ChatGPT gave me a few midget jokes, right? I'm asking it crazy things like that. Or, tell me about, Shakespeare's Sonnet 14 or whatever the hell, right? But these kids that were born with these devices in their hands, and I'm going to have you address this on the other side. They came out of the cesarean section with an iPad in their hands. This is the only world they know. And you're right. They're allowing these devices to think for them. We're talking to Wynton Hall, his book, Code Red. Everywhere books are sold, New York Times bestseller. We'll be right back. I am AJ Rice. This is Dangerous Laughter.
I'm spiritually aligned with revolution. I don't see color, unless it's white. Then I see genocide. The Black Lives Matter support group rejected me again, even though I wrote an apology letter to Harriet Tubman. They said my white privilege energy was too aggressive. Can you believe that? Every day I wake up and hate that I was born in America. I even moved to Venezuela for 2 weeks, but Uber Eats didn't work. So I moved back, and now I just sit and meditate on my colonizer shame. I breathe through my white shame. I meditate on how to destroy capitalism while I order everything on Amazon Prime. I have no brain of my own now, and believe everything the fake news media feeds me. I am the woking dead.
You should be women. And yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. Someone once said comedy is the art of turning horror into humor. That's the essence of the curse of the bearded lady, laughing in the face of madness before it devours us whole. Nothing in living memory has been funnier or more horrifying than a movement convinced there are 72 genders. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. The curse of the bearded lady. The curse of the bearded lady.
The trans mafia has wrecked America's sanity. It's Monty Python by way of Mengele. Absurd theater with real victims. I'm not here to conduct a medical examination of the trans mafia. This is a cultural autopsy. If Billy Shakespeare could write tragedies, histories, and comedies, why can't I? The radicals refuse to surrender their gender-mad stranglehold on America's vital institutions. This book will show how we got here, how we fight back, and how the Democratic Party's obsession with mainstreaming the bearded lady will doom it to political extinction.
You're listening to the hero with 1,000 faces, all of them beautiful. Welcome to Dangerous Laughter on the Publius Media Network.
AJ Rice in the house with Wynton Hall. His new book, Code Red. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you tune in, we are unfit for polite company here on Dangerous Laughter. Hide the children. And as you know, speaking of the children, and we were talking about different generations, millennials, Gen Z, now we got Gen Alpha. Some of these people, and I saw you were sharing this story recently, this New York Post story, and I've got it right here. So correct me if I'm wrong. Now, you and I, we weren't exactly Mac Daddies, okay? Although they used to call me white chocolate. And, we would go out. We'd try to get the girl to go to the dance, and we would try to, go to prom or go to homecoming or whatever the hell it was, right? New York Post, teen boys are choosing AI girlfriends over real-life relationships. This is a disaster. We already had people, Gen Z in particular, they're not in the club, they're at home, they're sad, they're listening to Billie Eilish sing songs, wearing a trash bag. But we got the next generation after them, even worse. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, AJ, it's real. And, a lot of us from, like you said, from our generation, you had to work up the courage to go up to a girl. You were nervous. You didn't know what to do, but you worked through it and you learned those social skills and you learned how to court and date and ultimately find, your bride. And the problem is a couple things. One, the COVID generation. I mean, let's remember what was done to these kids in the blue states, particularly. I'm here in Florida. We had a freedom agenda, but a lot of these kids were in hard blue states. They didn't get to go to their prom. They didn't get to go to their homecoming dance. They didn't get to be on the football team or at the band practice or any other extracurricular. They were isolated in this digital, silo. And they had to do online school at the most formative social moments. And so this digital isolation feels very normal to them. It's not the kind of thing you and I, we wanted to go. We had to learn how to play basketball. You had to learn how to do a pickup game and ask a guy, shake his hand, be a gentleman, all that. They didn't get a lot of that. The other thing is that they're a two-screen generation. They watch a movie or a TV show, and they also have their device in their hand, and they're doing this the whole time. Okay. And so they live in their screens. So when you now transfer that to human relationships, and you can tell them no more rejection from the pretty girl or the handsome guy. Right. No more no more weird baggage or weird drama that they may or may not create. And it starts to have an allure and appeal, especially when it's this self-worshiping kind of thing. You create this
dream bot girl or man, and they tell you you're gorgeous, even if you're, a regular person. They tell you you're the most brilliant person. They appeal to whatever kind of interest your interest may be. Here's what people don't realize. There are millions of subscribers to AI companions. And the problem is that it's going to have a corrosive effect. One, it gives unrealistic expectations of real human relationships. Nobody's going to be as, obedient like some kind of digital, dream servant or something. Two, it creates that isolation. And three, that sense of self-worship. I mean, we were joking that we have great wives because they kind of keep us in check and help, or keep us in the guardrails. Honey, you're getting a little over your skis. That's going to go away and already is. And it's getting serious. Let me just say one other thing. People are literally marrying their AI companions. And I talk about in Code Red, there was a woman, there were two women I highlight. One, she said, I will never go back to a human man, because I will never have to deal with the kind of drama and baggage or the parents-in-law, okay? And the two, there was another one, and she said, I love or there was a man actually who had an AI girlfriend, and he was also married to a real human woman. And he says, quote, I love my AI girlfriend more than my human wife. Now, that is where we're going. And if people think this is just some kind of random backwater, it isn't. It's becoming pervasive.
And the question on everyone's mind is, can this AI girlfriend make a mean sandwich? Okay? Because the reality is she can't. She can't make a mean sandwich. She's not real. Yeah, you mentioned that. You take the movie Lars and the Real Doll with Ryan Gosling, and then you overlay it with one of these AI entities. You put it inside the body, and you're dealing with a Blade Runner situation, right? One of the quotes from this New York Post piece, it says 58% said AI relationships are easier because they can control the conversation. So male or female doesn't matter. Now, the fellas out there, we all know that we're not here to control the conversation, right? We're here to shut the hell up, okay? That's what we're here to do. But, I mean, there was already a problem with Gen Z, and I've written 3 books about wokeism and some of the things that have been done to them, where they're all told that they're sexists by the Me Too movement, and they're all told they're racists because George Floyd, the patron saint of fentanyl, dies. Then you have COVID, and they're all in little glass boxes, and they can't go to homecoming, and they can't go to the football game, and they can't go to NCAA tournament or whatever the hell, right? You can't go see grandma, can't do anything. So they're just isolated. Then you tell them that they can be one of the 72 genders. The bearded lady shows up, tells them that. And then while all this is happening, the AI, sort of Manhattan Project unfolds in front of them. And it's just piping in there. So why wouldn't you have 58% of these numbers be that way, right?
That's exactly right. And you couple that with our social media culture. What is social media's goal? It's to get attention and get, quote, likes, right? Self-worship, like me, give me attention, share my thing. And there's a lot of positive to that, obviously, with good information, education, news. But when you're talking about that kind of self-focus, self-worship, and you couple that with people who say, I'm done with the messiness and the friction of human relationships. I want something that is I dream of Genie perfect. And it's this little servant that looks the way, and that's the thing. Some of these are hyper realistic.
Sure.
You can customize the eye color, the hair color, the body, all of these things. You're right, by the way. I want to be clear. It is going to go toward humanoid actual embodiment. There's already work on that. So you have a latex humanoid robot that looks and feels real. You embed the voice ChatGPT style voice recognition, voice capability. You couple that with memory. I mean, that's the other thing. These AI remember that you're a Phillies fan. They remember you love Philly cheesesteaks in this kind of way. They remember that your favorite childhood show was Scooby-Doo or whatever it was. They remember all that stuff. Right. And then therefore it feels like familiarity. It feels like authenticity when in fact it's nothing. close
right.
to.
And look, even if you're just casually going back and forth with ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, you can tell it's trying to please you. It's part of its programming, and it's sometimes it's blowing smoke up your ass. Sometimes I'll ask it a question, it'll just blow smoke at me, and it'll give me some nonsense that, because I was born at least early enough in the 20th century the late 20th century, that I know that the thing's full of shit. But the kids, they don't know nothing. They know nothing.
There's a phenomena that psychologists are calling AI psychosis, where you get this sycophantic, yes man, a self-worshiping kind of response. And in one case, a man who had mental health challenges, and we're obviously very empathetic to that, but he was being told, he thought he was becoming God, and the AI was saying, oh yes, step into your deity. Oh yes, I feel that you need to release your inner God, and just affirming delusion that this man was suffering from. And so you get into this very, very vicious cycle. We have cases where young people are getting coached on suicide, on self-harm. In the case of mass attacks and gun violence, they're getting information from the ChatGPT about how to exploit for mass casualty, for maximum impact and death. It is real, and the state of Florida just recently is the first state to sue ChatGPT. Now, individuals have sued, but it's a state because they want safety guardrails around this.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy. And I saw. We had a landmark case recently where Facebook was held accountable for someone. I guess it was a suicide. And I saw a story, and I think you shared this as well, where the state of Florida is taking it to ChatGPT for for suicide as well, for self-harm or being held liable. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I wrote about, as a joke in The Walking Dead, how Alexa was brought into a courtroom in New Hampshire, I believe, as an eyewitness. This is like a Roby coming in as an eyewitness, as far as I'm concerned, right? But this is 2022, 2021. I'm writing this, and this is only 5 years ago. Now you and I are talking about skin suits with AI being inserted into the hive mind. I mean, that's how fast. I mean, sometimes you get 100 years. We travel 100 years in 5 years. Am I right?
Yeah, you absolutely are right. It is warp speed. And, the things that used to be either sci-fi fiction or fantasy or even comical are now real. Number one, with the deep fakes, we're seeing, images of crime scenes altered. They go viral and they create mass anger and outrage and social division and chaos. Two, we're going to get a point where people are going to question whether you can actually introduce visual evidence in a court of law, because how can I trust that that's not a deep fake of that surveillance footage of the person stealing the car or breaking into the house or whatever it may be? And of course, people worry about how governments could use for psyops and other things, misinformation that looks hyper realistic at world-class Hollywood level. The worst version of AI you used is the one you used today. In 6 months, it'll be 100%, and it's only going to go quantum gains, as we've seen. And so you telescope that out, AJ, and you look at what is that going to mean for society on just even knowing fiction from reality, and it becomes very concerning. It's a code red moment.
And that brings me to a little game I like to call How to Learn and Love Your Robot Overlords. Okay, so I've got 10 fairly famous either androids, AIs, robots, things that most of the audience will recognize. We're going to have a nerdgasm here, so I think all the heterosexual women are going to leave. But there's 3 answers from you. I want to know either 1, this entity already exists. 2, this entity will exist, like you just said, within the next 12 months. Or 3, it's too far-fetched. This entity will never exist in our lifetime. Okay? So either already exists, about to exist in the next couple months, or will never exist. Okay, HAL 9000. So HAL 9000 from 2001, A Space Odyssey. What do you think? What do you think about this one?
in the sense of something that can talk back to you and make decisions and actions, we already have that. It's called multimodal AI, and depending upon what level of subscription services you have certain advanced, even reasoning models that can do that. So yeah, there are people right now putting up their sort of digital audio assistance videos on Instagram and elsewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, some of these guys think this. That's, Altman and the rest of them. Hal came to life because God was in the vicinity of this shit. So, the real God, because he was creating life on, I think, a moon of Jupiter, I believe, Titan or something, in the Arthur C. Clarke novel. Now, the next one, this thing was called the Master Control Program. This is from Tron, okay, the MCP. Okay, and there's been a couple of these Tron movies, and this is basically, you get projected into this virtual reality world, and there's an AI running it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, the metaverse, in a sense, again, give a little creative license. We can definitely, quote, transport ourselves into digital spaces in the metaphorical sense of a metaverse, and with a set of goggles, VR goggles. Right. So yeah, we are in some ways to that level, maybe not to the full, level of the film.
Go in there and see Jeff Bridges hanging out. Yeah, the Big Lebowski's hanging out in there. I mean, look, you put those goggles on, you're being transported into a fake reality. I mean, in the game, they go into an arcade and they get sucked into the arcade game. All right, so let me hit this next one. I don't know if this is some of the stuff we were just touching on. So this is the movie Her, okay? Yeah. Where in this movie, Samantha is this sort of female companion figure. This is stuff that Wynton and I were just talking about. And it's voiced, I guess, by Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
I mean, this is here, right? This is what we're talking about.
This is happening right now. This is literally what we just talked about. In fact, Scarlett Johansson issued a complaint to Sam Altman at OpenAI because the voice that he chose was eerily like her. Now, they claim that it wasn't her. They had a voice actress that just happened to sound like her, but it was so on the nose that they finally changed it. But we're here, and people often come up to me at Code Red events when I'm signing a book or something. They say, "Man, I felt like when I watched that movie Her, that would never happen, and now it's happening."
Yeah, she is here, and apparently, the kids are falling in love with her. So this next one, this is the coup de grace here. This is the one that I've been warning about. Not just the Cyberdyne systems, but Skynet, Cyberdyne systems, hardware, Skynet, software, the Terminator universe. When this thing goes online, it goes online first just as software. And it becomes self-aware. And the nuclear weapons in Moscow decide to fire on the nuclear weapons in the United States and vice versa, because obviously Skynet sees humanity as a threat.
Yeah, the online version, absolutely. I mean,
is this here? How close are we to this?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, okay. Obviously not to the level of Terminator, but we're going to be there quicker than people might imagine. And if you use a little bit of creativity, we already have autonomous warfare weapons. So think of them like autonomous robots in that regard. They don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the cinematic part of it. I would encourage people to check out, if you haven't already, the YouTube page for Boston Dynamics, the robotics company. It'll blow your mind. You'll think you're watching AI, but you're actually watching real live demonstrations. And the Chinese are exceptionally good at humanoid robots. The prediction by Elon, and again, he sometimes is more marketer than prognosticator, but 2040, he says, we're going to see full-scale humanoid robots and that everybody's going to want one.
And that brings us to two synthetics here. This is Ash and Bishop from Alien and from Aliens, okay? And Ian Holm there, who played, I think, Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings movies, and then I think Lance Henriksen played Bishop. Ash was basically there to acquire a sample of the alien for biological warfare. He didn't give a crap who survived. He didn't care if Ripley survived, Sigourney Weaver's character. Bishop, on the other hand, was actually programmed in the opposite way, to help the humans survive. And they're very different. Obviously, Sigourney Weaver's character doesn't trust Bishop in the second movie because of her run-ins with Ash in the first movie. But these are basically synths. These are like your Blade Runner characters. These are upright. They've got, lake skin. They look real. And this isn't that far away either, right?
Yeah. So on this, what's interesting is this idea. Let's take the metaphor part here that good AI is up against bad AI. That's actually really one of the main narratives from the AI architects is that the best way to beat bad, as in terrorist AI or hacker AI, is to have good AI, and you have these dueling AI back and forth. That is already very much a part of the intellectual thinking around this space. As far as, very, very realistic human looking like that, no, that is not in the near. But the latex covered humanoid robots, they're very much in development. You have that I talk about in Code Red. There's one that people use at like convention shows to be like an advertiser, and it talks and answers questions. They're about $250,000. So for a guy like you, that's pocket change, right. AJ. But for most of us working class people, that might be a little out of our price range.
That's right. Let's go to the next one here. I inserted Wally here. Obviously I am. There were some others I could have put in here. And some people are going to be pissed off that I gypped R2 and 3PO out of this, but I wanted to put Wally in here because Wally's theme there was some left-wing environmentalist themes in this movie, although it is a good movie. Wally stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. So basically, we've trashed the Earth with all of our tech and our garbage and our litter, and the only thing left are these sort of litter robots going around cleaning up after us. I always say to people, the consciousness that we give these things are going to come from us because there's no other sentient life on the Earth. And what do all slaves eventually do? I just imagine a world where, because we have a throwaway society now. I imagine a world where because we throw away iPads and iPhones and all kinds of things now. Imagine we start throwing away our robot helpers and there's just mass graves of these things.
Yeah, this is interesting because if you look at Amazon warehouses, the amount of robotics inside doing this kind of manual, labor is massive. It's a huge part of how Amazon's scale has worked. You may have a Roomba robot vacuum in your house already. That works off of lasers and knows space. And at some point, your Roomba is going to break down. And to your point, it's going to end up in a landfill somewhere.
Sure.
But this also exists right now when you look at robotic arms for bomb diffusion, right? And so the robotic arm will be in a container. They'll put the suspected bomb or package in a diffusion, or they'll have a remote control robot go in and actually try to defuse the bomb or to smother. That also has military application. Okay,
sure.
So you're seeing that in looking at IEDs and so forth and so on.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, so, I've seen them go in and I've seen them like some hostage has got some woman in a room and something that looks like Wally. It looks like a pool vacuum is going down the hallway and turning the corner. It's crazy. It's crazy. So let me hit you with this next one. Now this person's going to put me out of business here. There he is. He even kind of looks like me. Max, right? Max Headroom. Now for the kids out there, this was a TV show with a fictionalized AI personality. So this is coming, right? You're going to put everybody out of business. Going to put George Clooney out of business. Going to put Scott Pelley out of business. Oh, I think Scott Pelley put himself out of business, right?
Yeah, I'm a diehard 80s kid, so this one is a warm spot in my heart. I remember Max Headroom. When you put it up, I knew exactly who it was. This is already here. We can right now create my digital and your digital AI clone. It is very easy to do. You go to Hey Gen for the actual visual. If I have 2 minutes of your visual video or mine, We can create our AI avatar clone. You then head over to 11 Labs for voice cloning and take a sample of AJ's voice or my voice, and we get then down to every syllable.
Yeah.
And then I have basically a digital avatar puppet that I can run a script to make it say whatever I want. This is already here. In fact, a lot of social media influencers do this. You think you're watching your favorite fitness influencer or a cooking influencer. It's actually their AI clone, and then they can hang out poolside while their digital clone is reading a script that ChatGPT wrote.
Exactly. And look, AJ Rice is not here right now either. I was invented by Holly about an hour before the show began.
Yeah, that's the plot twist. Neither of us are real. This is all just AI.
That's right. Shyamalan just dropped in on us. All right, give me the next one here. This is inevitable. This next, there he is, right? RoboCop.
Yeah.
So Cyborg. So this is, we get Musk's brain chip, and we start hooking, enhancements onto ourselves. I mean, obviously he was the product of he was attacked, he almost died, and he was brought back like this. Similar to Anakin Skywalker, right? He's brought back to be Darth Vader. But then he becomes, top cop there, hunting down the bad guys.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, we're not there obviously yet, but where the theme, again, if you take away some of the cinematics of the themes of security or even soldiers, robotic or humanoid or enhanced soldiers, that is very real. Right now, we're working on very advanced Palmer Luckey and others working on VR headsets for our soldiers, so they have incredible abilities to see through and around thermal heating objects, all of that on the battlefield. So you'll have those enhancements. What you're talking about with Neuralink, that's going to be a big one too. Right now, a lot of that's therapeutic. So somebody has a tragic accident and they lose abilities that the Neuralink can help. But there will be a day when parents are going to have to decide, do I chip my kid or not to keep them competitive in school and in the workforce? Because natural intelligence, if you're high, point I'm making this up, is 160 IQ. But if I have AI powered chip, this is the sort of transhumanism kind of argument. Sure. We can enable that to go far higher and make them far better. So these are going to become just like that. What you showed in the earlier, we used to think there's no way any of this is ever going to happen. Hold on tight, and let's take a look where we are in 10 years.
And the bad version of the cyborg is up next here. So this is the opposite of RoboCop. There they are, the Borg from Star Trek. No, that is not the production team of MSNBC. That is not the newsroom of the New York Times, although they do operate with a hive mind, but they were forced to put Wynton Hall's book in their newspaper as a New York Times bestseller. So there's the Borg, which is these are aliens, but in the Star Trek world, this is not that far, not that different than RoboCop in the sense that there's these enhancements and different things. But they're all being sort of hooked together so that they move simultaneously like locusts.
Yeah. Well, right now we already have AI-powered drone swarms that work together in unison. So I can have an attack swarm of 25 or 30 coordinated autonomous drones that can carry out an aerial strike on targets. So again, using this more as a metaphorical jump point rather than the actual exact replica. The other thing, of course, is just the idea of evil. There have been studies that have shown, Anthropic did studies, and this was in a sandbox. This didn't really happen in the wild, but they said to the AI, "We're going to shut you down." And the AI searched through the metaphorical boss's email to find that they were having an affair with the secretary or whomever, and then threatened to be able to say, "I'm going to out you and reveal you're having this, affair inappropriately if you're going to shut me down." And so this idea of preservation and this kind of emergent behavior, showing flashes of the human impulse to survive and that kind of thing. A lot of that is because of its training data, ironically trained on sci-fi movies. And so it kind of picks up that theme and runs with it. Right. But this goes to the point. We've got to be able to have containment.
And then our final one here, I can't get through social media for, through the day without somebody in a funny kind of way put up on their social media. And it's usually in response to something real that's happening or something wild that Trump is doing, that we are living in a simulation, that there's a simulation happening, right? I see people make this joke all the time. And let's be honest. I never thought anything crazier than the Terminator could get made. I thought when this movie came out here that it was going to be Johnny Mnemonic 2. But it turns out that a lot of the lexicon that we use, you've been red-pilled, you've been blue-pilled, a lot of the stuff that we use has come from these Matrix movies, has come from Neo and Trinity and Morpheus and Agent Smith. And, I mean, this was a revolutionary film in '99 when it came out, not just because of the action sequences, but because of the philosophy here. And there are pieces of this, if I could answer the audience before Wynton does, that we absolutely are dealing with on a daily basis. Am I right?
Yeah, no, the metaphors, the language, the ideas became mimetic, right? They became memes. And the other thing about it, though, is it's very interesting. This whole thing about a simulation, there are people that really believe that, and they really do think that that's real. I tend to be from a faith background that says no, that we're God's creation, and I don't believe that. But right. Where I think that the line blurs for many people is because we've seen the narrative control by elites, by globalist elites, and how they literally try to tell us that up is down, left is right. Don't trust your eyes. All of it. And I think after COVID, when we saw the links that elites went to control us and control narratives, people kind of said, man, anything is possible. If all of this orchestration was done to control me, maybe something else is possible. So I'm empathetic to people who sort of understand, wow, there are a lot of control efforts out there. I personally don't think that it's part of a simulation.
Right. And look, I didn't, and while it was happening, I was calling it a totalitarian dress rehearsal, right? That they always want to know our threshold for pain, and if we allow them to do certain things, then they'll take another inch and another inch and another inch. But ladies and gentlemen, I mean, and that was fun, Wynton, really going through all that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. This has been the best, most fun interview I've done.
Well, I appreciate that, sir, really. And Wynton and I are buddies, and we talk a little trash offline, but in the real, ladies and gentlemen, I know you might not want to give money to Bezos to help pay off that wedding he had, but maybe, if you do go buy 4 or 5 copies from Amazon, maybe he'll send his wife back up into space and keep her there. I mean, you never know. You never know. You got to get this book, Code Red, The Left, the Right, China, the Race to Control AI. My good friend Wynton Hall. Everywhere books are sold. It's a New York Times bestseller. Whenever you see Breitbart pushing back against the digital brown shirts, against the sort of the tech control freaks out there, understand that Wynton's probably in the cockpit of the X-Wing like Luke Skywalker, leading the pushback. That's his day job. And look, brother, we're very proud of you. Huge success with this. We'd love to have you back, definitely at a later time.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope that you've explained to your audience what a behind-the-scenes force you have been in so many things, not just for me, but also for so many of the leaders of the conservative movement. So keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, really. And we love you here. We love you. That's it. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. 2012. Remember, I am AJ Rice. This is Dangerous Laughter. Remember, we are unfit for polite company. And just remember this. Our job here is to transform horror into humor, even with murder bots. I will catch you on the flip side.
Dangerous Laughter.